Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching the VSO Gun Channel. I just have a real quick video for you today because I don't think I need to spend a whole lot of time on this topic because I don't believe that under the current makeup of Congress, there's a whole lot of chance of what we're going to talk about today passing, but I suppose that the Republicans have been backstabbing us pretty hard lately on the Second Amendment stuff. So keep an eye out, I suppose. Keep it on your radar. Be informed. The reason I'm doing this today is to reaffirm what is coming down the pipe. When Republicans proposed dropping the NFA tax in a half measure without any substantive NFA reforms, like including the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act and the big blow to backstab bill that we got earlier this month, which we've documented ad nauseum. We don't need to go through that. Basically, the Republicans screwed you big by bowing to political pressure and rushing that thing through to meet their arbitrary deadline. And they've left your ass hanging out to get smacked. Today's video is brought to you by XS Sites. I'm out here today preaching the good word of the XS Big Dot site. If you don't like the XS Big Dot site, then you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. XS makes a whole bunch of different site profiles, not just the Big Dot site. They also do scope bases, optics rails, and even handguard rails now. And XS has been a big time, long time supporter of the channel, so I very much appreciate them supporting the mission here at the VSO Gun Channel. Let's get into the video. What they did by just reducing the tax has brought it to the forefront, and every brainless anti-gun person out there has now been taught that you can obtain certain items by paying a tax. And the whole reason that the thing exists is for taxation purposes. And that tax demonstrably can be changed during a reconciliation process, 51 votes. Before it was even officially proposed, I and several members of the Second Amendment community were involved in behind-the-scenes conversations with these folks. And we told them, before it was even officially proposed, that just a reduction in the tax was not good enough, and it was going to have massive implications if they did it wrong. And they went ahead and did it anyway. So instead of removing draconian, nonsensical, unconstitutional regulations on things like AOW, short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, suppressors, instead of reducing those regulations to that of a regular firearm, like doing your unconstitutional NICS background check and filling out the 4473, treat them like a long gun or a handgun, right? Outside of that, there would have been unregistered access, which is the real problem. It's not the $200 tax, although the $200 tax stings a little bit. It was the registration that keeps people from buying these. They do not want to go on a national gun registry, which, I might add, Republicans allowed to remain in effect. Getting rid of those regulations, which would have allowed unregistered access, which would have resulted in them being ubiquitous. They would have been everywhere. They would have been probably solid unobtainium for the first 2 years, because as soon as they were made, they would all be purchased. Everybody would want one, which would have made them among the most popular arms in the United States, which would have made them absolutely untouchable. Instead of creating that scenario, we've got this lackluster bullshit that we got fed by the Republicans. Remember this?
I never got to ask anybody to compromise core principles, but preferences must be yielded for the greater good.
And now we have taught the enemy what they can and cannot do. It has been pretty fortunate up to this point that they didn't think about adjusting the tax for inflation, because remember, 1934, $200 is a lot of money. Well, now Mr. Gun Control himself, Chris Murphy, who gets led around by his cuck cage by every gun control group that exists, has proposed an amendment to the military spending bill that would reinstate the tax and correct it for inflation. $4,700 per transaction. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Democrats campaign on gun control. They campaign on abolishing the Second Amendment. They hate America. But Republicans are the ones that actually get the gun control done. Remember the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act? Republicans made that one possible. They set this one up. Now, currently, like I said, this is not likely going to be added to the military spending bill. The amendment just probably won't be added. But this is foreshadowing what is coming down the pipe. So, again, I'm going to renew the call for it. More now than ever, the National Firearms Act must be repealed. There must be something done to prevent this from happening, because this is what's coming down the pipe right quick and in a hurry as soon as power swings back the opposite direction, and we have nobody to thank but Republicans for it. They screwed you, and they screwed you big. Oh yeah, hey, one more thing to add during the credits here. There are 2 lawsuits being litigated currently to get rid of the National Firearms Act because the tax is no longer a thing. Problem with that is those lawsuits take a really long time to litigate. By the time we get a decision on those lawsuits, power will probably have switched back the opposite direction, and all they have to do to moot those lawsuits is reinstate the tax. This is a giant circle jerk again. Thanks, Republicans.